What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to the final House Divided of this week. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. This is Orange Bloods Live, but it's House Divided on Orange Bloods Live. Do us a solid. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Get notifications. Just karate chop all of them, and you would be making us happy. That's right, Jay Francis in the Space Jack. Let's go. Got a fun hour planned for you today leading up to the final buy or sell of the week, of which I've not put a single question into the program. So Chad is definitely not cheating today. He has no idea what's going on. Chad, it's a busy week over at Orange Bloods, busy week on the War Room last night. Makes for good conversation today. It's part of where we'll be starting this afternoon.
Yeah, and it was I was just telling you as we were getting ready, I thought the War Room it's always good. I thought last night was particularly good. Let me throw a QR code at the people real quick. Every Thursday night, orangebloods.com. Go ahead and hit that QR code if you like. We sit here, catch 15 days till the spring game, and a little under 150 till that first game, 148 to be exact, until they play Colorado State. But right about halfway in terms of spring practices, I thought there was a lot of good truth and realism in the War Room if Texas fans are willing to hear it. A lot of times I think they are. I've always said they're a pretty realistic group. So I think there's some good truth for them today, and maybe a little bit of a step back, take a breath on a couple things. But I think there's some great updates in there. And for me, it starts with the receiver stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing between the stuff that I wrote about and the stuff that Anwar wrote about on the wide receiver front, I thought there was a lot to take out of it. And maybe just the biggest message is whatever it is that you think you know, slow down a little bit. It's a work in progress. And you had Anwar Richardson writing that his sources were telling him that Matthew Golden was Quinn Ewers' favorite target in all of the receivers that they'd been working out with so far. Then you had, I'm reporting that I had one source tell me just slow down a little bit on Jonte Cook, that if the season started today, he's not a guy that's probably ready to go out and get the types of numbers that a lot of people are projecting him to have for the season. Will he catch 100 passes? Is he definitely a 1,000-yard guy? The sense I was getting was slow down. He's still a young guy. It's still a little bit of up and downs. And I think with the wide receiver position in general, a year ago it was Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell trying to reach that status, but you always kind of had the Xavier Worthy blanket to lean on when it was bedtime. I think that it's a wide receiver group that on any given day, a different guy can look like the best receiver that they have, and the best receiver that you think they have can have a day that reminds you it's still a work in progress.
I think that is the biggest theme. And I keep going back to, you go back to what they're losing and what they're gaining, and so much about what just walked out the door. But what's coming in, it's still being processed. And you think about, Worthy, Mitchell, Sanders, Whittington. They're headed towards the draft. The guy that Quinn Ewers has thrown the most passes to, that is coming back to this team. Catch, his name? Most passes he's thrown somebody to.
Gunnar Helm.
Baxter at 24, and then Helm and Helm and Blue both have 14. And of course, Jonte Cook sitting at 8. But let's be fair, 2 of those were from the other 2 quarterbacks. Murphy threw him 1. Arch threw him 1. Quinn Ewers has thrown him 6 balls. So when you're looking at how this resets, I think all that is fair to bring up in terms of what's real and what's real and what's realistic. The one word that fans never want to hear.
Well, and I think one of the things that you and I think have tried to do a really good job, we count things. We've been counting practices, and there was a day when there was 5, and then there's a day when there's a 6, and then you get to this point of camp, and now they're officially at the midway point. We're still 2 weeks away from tomorrow, from it being the spring game, and even then, it's still early. Then there's summer workouts. There's the 15 practices you get in August, leading up from when you first start putting pads on to when you start getting ready for game week towards the first weekend of September. So, is this an offense that's, I hate to use the old Dwayne Aquino, but add water, instant anything? Probably not. Is it a group that has an insanely number of talented players? It does. But I think you're constantly reminded that from a chemistry standpoint, and we talked about this with Arch Manning yesterday, that one of the things that they want to see is a little more consistency attacking the field, down the field. But those sources were quick to say it's a brand new group of players that he's working with the second team offense, that it's a constant shuttling in of different guys. And that's kind of the same thing that Quinn Ewers is working with as well. Some days you're getting Isaiah Bond. Some days it's a little Ryan Wingo. There's Matthew Golden mixed in, even working out with guys like, DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook. Those are newish players for him to be working with the ones. And so kind of the groove and the natural response from the body in terms of muscle memory of what does it feel like when I throw this route is a little bit different from player to player. And I think they're working the kinks out. It's the one thing that continues to be stressed is that the quarterback play the coaches are happy with. You're not seeing the ball turned over a lot. The ball doesn't always hit the ground. But inside of those concessions, I think they're still waiting to see more. And there's still almost half of training camp for this spring to go. And I think this is when the coaches would like to see real moves made. That if the opening half of practices were about getting your feet situated, I think the expectations are now to do better than that in the second half of camp. And I think it starts tomorrow. It'll be a really interesting practice for the Longhorns. They'll be scrimmaging. They'll have a lot of recruits in town. There will be a lot of players, wide receivers at that, watching the wide receiver position to kind of get a feel for what does it look like in terms of actuality and execution with all of these big names on campus. So I think this weekend becomes really interesting. And I think that if you're a Texas football fan and you're asking yourself, well, how do I take in on a daily basis what you guys are spitting out? I mean, look, there's 2 weeks left. Listen for who is consistently being mentioned. If tomorrow Ryan Wingo has a big day, that's a feather in Ryan Wingo's cap. Does he keep having days where his name is mentioned? Because that's the consistency part. And I think that's the part when I stop and think about it from a wide receiver position, it is the consistency part that is lacking the most. It's so-and-so had a good day this day, and then a couple of days will go by and you're still thinking, hey, it's been since Monday since I've heard that this guy had a really good practice. And so, I think they're waiting to see their top guys be top guys every single day. It's a new set of expectations for every player. Jonte Cook came in a year ago, and the expectation for him wasn't to be the best wide receiver on the team every day. But now he's in a newer role where the expectations are significantly higher, and it means he's got to catch the ball better. It means everything's got to be better. And I think even for him, a guy that is a presumptive starter in this offense and has certainly had some good days, there can be more. It needs to be more consistent. And until it does happen, I think that Steve Sarkisian will continue to look all over the place for the answers at the wide receiver position.
A lot of messages being sent right now. Speaking of messages, we got almost 200 folks in the Specs chat. Thanks to Specs for being one of our great partners. Get stocked up. Caitlin Clark's going to be firing tonight. You got to be ready.
You're needing Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
It's 8 o'clock tonight for Caitlin and Paige. If you're interested there on Big ESPN, and catch The Truth Shall Set You Free at McCombs Field this weekend. Texas and Oklahoma, 5:30, and it's all on TV this weekend if people want to check it out. ESPN2 this afternoon at 5:30. Can Texas hang with OU in softball? A very tough thing to do. We're going to find out.
Can Texas baseball pick its jaw and body off the ground from an opener to the series loss to BYU? It is a trend that they've got to figure out a way to stop, which is lose the opener and then bludgeon a team in game two and then win the third. They're now pressed into a position where this felt like a series they needed to get all three. That's out the window. BYU gets game one, the opener. Now I'm halfway expecting Texas to score 20 plus in this Friday game. Such a weird Texas baseball team right now. There's so much still in front of it, but boy, they can't help but to step on their private parts at least once a weekend. And it kind of is what it is. And Texas fans have had to somewhat adjust to what their realistic expectations for that group can be.
Well, catch the line in Office Space is somebody's got a case of the Mondays. This team gets a case of the Fridays, like every week. They have such bad starts to series. Get down 6-0 last night. LeBaron Johnson wasn't good. Couldn't find a run anywhere. You get down 6-0. Yeah, you fought back to 7-5. I guess that's what you try to build on, but boy, they got to find some better Fridays. By the way, tonight at 7:30, tomorrow 2:30 for Texas and BYU. You got the day off schedule there on Sunday because of the BYU opponent. So all that's going on this weekend. Check that out. And we appreciate you jumping in the chat. This one came in a little earlier from Vivek. It'll be interesting to see if Sark makes the sum of the parts greater than the individual components, which are clearly talented. Vivek, that's kind of the discussion, I think, overall, of trying to get it all to come together. Catch, in terms of the Matthew Golden discussion, I'm wondering if a lot of messaging is coming together at one time here. So I'm going to mention multiple conversations kind of at once, but I'm thinking, are they messaging to Matthew Golden, hey, man, here's what we want from you. And we're seeing you, right? We're seeing what you're doing. So that messaging gets out that he's doing well. But that's also meant to get Jonte Cook's attention. Hey, Jonte, you understand what's going on here? We need you to pick this up. And then the Wingo stuff is intentional because that's a message to Wingo, but also kind of a message to Cook. And you mentioned those recruits coming in. They know DeCorian Moore is about to be watching the practice this weekend. So you want to send a message to him about, hey, badass 5-star. And so all these discussions we've had, it feels like there's a lot of messaging to receivers kind of happening at the same time.
Yeah, I've been wondering what that particular comment that was given to Anwar means, probably the same way you've tried to decipher it. I think the biggest takeaway that I took from it was, not that I'm a guy that's had Matthew Golden on the outside looking in terms of playing time, but it's a reminder that he's still around, that, I think we have started, and look, some of this is by Sark's intentions earlier in the week in the singling out of Ryan Wingo. It was like, okay, well, look, we think these two guys are definite starters. We think Isaiah Bond is here. If Wingo is being talked about in such fashion, is he definitely 4? And then if that's the case, who's 5? Who's 6? What does that pecking order look like? I think there's been an assumption that Matthew Golden is maybe the 5th guy. I think maybe the report last night is an indication that there might be more rotation than we've seen, and that being the fifth guy may not be as bad as being the fifth guy previously would have been just a season ago. And I think it's a constant reminder that this is a work in progress, that however it is that we see the receivers after 6 practices might feel quite different after 12. You just got to constantly let this thing play out. They don't have a game in 8 days.
Right.
They have scrimmage tomorrow, but they don't have any games in quite a while. So, I think that there's just a lot of time for this stuff to come together. And, I keep going back to DeAndre Moore. All of these things have potentially impacts on the people in front, the people behind.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Golden was really making a run and seems to be the guy that Ewers likes throwing the ball to the most. Does that mean he can move into the slot and that Bond and Cook are your outside guys? We could do this all day long. I just think it's a reminder. Don't get ironclad with your projections of what the lineups are going to look like and who's going to be in them. Again, I don't want to sound redundant in saying it's a work in progress, but it is. That's what practice is. It's work in progress. And I wouldn't hear anything that we're saying today and go wild with it, because next week the conversation could sound a little bit different. Sark might out of nowhere say, who's starting to look really good? Aaron Butler, the true freshman. He's really starting to go on.
Right.
And there's a cause and effect to that, right? We hear Aaron Butler's looking good. Who's that bad for? And then we work ourselves into Matthew Golden might be the number 7 receiver. It's like, well, no, it could just be that Aaron Butler had a good practice. It doesn't automatically mean that the depth chart's being shaken up because that's the case. I am looking forward to hearing who performs well tomorrow in the scrimmage. Because I've always looked at the scrimmages as not the end all be all, but if I hear, Arch and Ryan Wingo had a thing going in the scrimmage yesterday, threw a couple of touchdown passes, I'll think to myself, more than anything else, okay, so when Arch plays at some point during the 2024 season, we probably should keep in mind that he and Wingo had a little bit of a chemistry. I constantly remind myself when Isaiah Nayor was healthy going into the 2022 season, it did feel like he and Ewers had a real connection. And I thought we saw it very early on in that spring game 2 years ago where they go deep on the very first play. It's a long developing deep play. He throws the ball to Nayor, who catches a long pass for a touchdown. And the feeling was, oh, man, okay. Those two guys have a little something. Don't be surprised if very early into the 2023 season, 2022 season, that's a play that we would see exactly to that player. And then when he got hurt in August, that went out the window. And I don't know that we saw that play all season to anybody. So I'm curious to see what it looks like, what groupings pair up with other groupings, but I won't make too much of it. It'll just be notes that I file away because this isn't the biggest scrimmage of all time, but it's one of the bigger ones in this spring. There will be more in August leading up to the first game. All of these are just data points.
Good stuff coming in on the Specs chat. Our man Alan always reminding you to smash that like button. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate your support there. There he is, Papa Sorrell, renamed On the Porch, giving us a little, hey, fellas, what's up, Mr. Sorrell? Hope you're doing well today. Also, Blake reminding us, Catch, big weekend, Rangers-Astros tonight. Blake, I'm sorry, I would have mentioned it, but I was talking about teams that had won 3 games already in their season, so that's my bad. Astros-Rangers are playing in Arlington tonight.
And anybody feel better, I can't talk about if that's the case. I'm not allowed to talk about the Phillies yet either.
Yeah, fair enough. Blake also throws in such good problems to have. I remember back in 21 when we were wondering who was even going to be the second option.
Well, they tried every other week to find somebody.
Yeah, well, that's true. And there may be a little, there may be some trial and error to things as we go through. The other name I'll keep mentioning, Catch, I think a lot of this kind of taking a step back and taking a breath. Do not forget the name Silas Bolden, even though he's not here. Don't forget that name, because the idea in people's heads, I think, is, well, by the time Silas walks in, everything's figured out. Quinn's going to have a favorite. Quinn's going to know his two. Quinn's going to know all his hot routes. Silas Bolden's not going to be able to hang on. He had more catches than Bond last year. He had more catches than Golden last year. He led his teams in the three big categories. He's had more experience. Don't assume he's going to walk in here and take third and fourth, team options. That's not what's going to happen. So don't forget that guy. But then we just need to see where the comfortability is with Quinn. He has not thrown any of these guys many passes. A few we mentioned, but a wide receiver, he's thrown 6 passes to Cook. That's it. He hasn't thrown anything in a meaningful game to any of these guys. You got to give it time to figure itself out.
Well, and I think, to that point, will we get to the end of the spring and someone will have planted a flag down and said, this is my job.
Yeah.
This is my job. You might show up in June, but you need to know this is my spot over here. I don't know that any of that has completely happened. I think everybody's really excited by the talent. I think there's an acknowledgement that everybody realizes there's some consistency that's better needed. And that goes everywhere. I mean, I had a source yesterday tell me Jonte Cook needs to be more consistent every week, and that person isn't comfortable yet with the 80 catches, 1,200-yard projections. Maybe it gets there. Probably it gets there. But it's a good thing there's no game tomorrow, because there's still a lot of work to be done, and I don't get the sense that anybody thinks that a flag has been put down at the wide receiver position proclaiming that this spot is a particular player's and that everybody else just needs to move on. I think there might be a greater chance that there won't be any flags put down by the time we get to the end of the spring, that a lot of this stuff will be determined by what happens in summer workouts going into August, at which point Silas Bolden will be involved in those. And, maybe he goes through the same thing these other guys have gone through, where it takes a little bit of time to find your rhythm and your consistency. But if it doesn't, I think at this point he's got as good a chance as anybody, given the fact that there really is inconsistency from day in and day out at that position with regards to the hierarchy. As much as Ryan Wingo stands out one day, he's not doing it back to back to back. And that's probably true of every receiver on the campus.
Yeah, got to find the consistency. How about this? A little insider info for you. Papa Sorrell says, good source tells me Golden is the real deal. All right, there you go.
Keep in mind this about Matthew Golden. There were players that entered, and thank you on the porch, Sorrell. There were players that entered the portal that signed with other schools. They went to Oklahoma. I could probably pull up the portal window and we'd go, okay, there's Juice Wells. There's this guy. Texas didn't want those guys, really. They really slow played the receivers. And then Matthew Golden entered the portal, and Texas didn't slow play a thing about that recruitment. As soon as he entered, it was different than all of the other portal guys that had entered up until that point. So they clearly coveted Golden. They recruited Golden as a high school recruit. They played against him. They saw him play against Texas. They know he's a good player. So it doesn't surprise me that he's a guy that people are excited about. He's a guy that the coaches clearly coveted. Simple as that. I mean, there's no way to get around the fact that they treated Matthew Golden different than they treated other wide receivers that entered the portal. And they didn't care about rankings. If you think about the receivers that entered the portal, now Evan Stewart was the main guy. They didn't really mess around with him. But when Deion Burks came out of Purdue, they played footsie a little bit. But Texas kept playing footsie with Burks because they were hoping that either Isaiah Bond or the kid from Kentucky would enter in. Same thing with Antoine Wells from South Carolina, who ends up going to Ole Miss. They skipped a lot of guys, and Matthew Golden, they simply preferred more than those guys. I'm not telling you that Matthew Golden's going to be better than Deion Burks at Oklahoma this year, or that he's going to have a bigger season than Antoine Wells Jr. is at Ole Miss. What I'm going to tell you is, if you follow the don't tell me but show me way of reading the way schools look, Texas acted with Matthew Golden in ways, with Golden in ways that they just didn't act with those other guys. So, surprise, they like him a lot. They think he's really good, that he's a guy that's making waves in practice. That's what the expectations would have been based on the out and out like that they had for him. And they were waiting for him to hit the portal. And when he did, they were all over it.
Yeah, it's a good point. All right, Taylor El Presidente, we see your super chats. We are going to get right to those real quick. Let's take a breath and let you hear and see all the things that AV Consultations can do for you. I want the furniture in picture number 2.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to AV Consultations, one of our great newer partners around here. Speaking of newer partners, also shout out to Groggy Dog. Be on the lookout for OB merch. It's on the way, and you may even have an opportunity to get some merch in time for the spring game. So be paying attention on social media, orangebloods.com, and all that good stuff. Shout out to Groggy Dog as well. And shout out to the folks on the Specs chat. The super chats go right to the front. Let's get them. I'm going to get them in chronological order here. So Taylor's came in first. $4.99. Taking my family to our first orange and white game. Any tips when and where to get the kids' autographs or how early to get there? Taylor, you're looking at a 1 o'clock kick. So catch, I'm going to say what, about the 11 a.m., maybe 10:30, 11 a.m. window in terms of like an autograph deal?
I got to be honest, I haven't paid attention yet to the whole what they're doing. Sometimes they've done that after the spring game. And so then it's about, there's a line that sometimes goes around DKR. I think the first tip I would give you is make sure you've got lots of sunscreen.
Oh, yeah.
Because it'll be hot.
The good thing, Taylor, also, if you are taking kids for autographs, remember, you don't have to bring anything. In fact, you can't bring anything. Don't bring individual items that you want. They're going to have something for you. They'll have a nice big poster with all the players' pictures, and they'll sign it for you. So you don't have to worry about bringing anything like that. But yeah, you just be kind of looking. Check TexasSports.com, then check social media. They're going to get a schedule out. And Ketch brings up a great point. It's either going to be an early window before or something after My guess is it'd be before, because would you want to do that at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon? But who knows? Schedule-wise, they may have.
We'll check back in next week, Taylor. We'll get a more definitive answer for you. I hadn't thought about it because it just hasn't been a priority for me, but I will make sure I get a good answer for you, Taylor.
Yeah, and our next super chat catch, El Presidente thought if he's got a heavy question, let's throw some heavy money behind it. Thank you, El Presidente, for $20. Is the Texas football program SEC ready? Nice dollar sign. How big of a disservice did Bo Davis do this program with the way he recruited? Lots of questions in that defensive tackle room. Every position is stacked, but the DT room. El Presidente catch, worried about the middle of the defensive line.
That's fair. I think the Texas football program is SEC ready. I do think that the defensive tackle position is a question mark. Interesting comment made to me yesterday that would seem to indicate that Texas is at least okay was that they won't go get a defensive tackle in the portal just to go get a body. They feel like they've got bodies. They feel like they've got average players. They want somebody who's a notch above that, or they're not going to bother. So wherever they're at, they don't feel desperate, it doesn't seem. But I don't think – look, Bo Davis didn't do a good job of recruiting the defensive tackle position at Texas. That's my opinion. That's based on the fact that he didn't get a lot of big-time signees. That's based on the fact that you don't really see, even now, you're still seeing Tom Herman recruits who are filling the void at the defensive tackle position as opposed to guys that Bo Davis recruited. I think you just got to stay tuned. I mean, I don't know how to answer that other than to say it's not where they want it to be. It's a little bit like wide receiver in that they want guys to be putting performances up consecutively, day in and day out, performing at a high level. That's not happening. There are lots of questions in that defensive tackle room. They've got lots of bodies. I can't tell you that anybody's stepped up yet, taken the bull by the horn, and has answered a question. I think they're hoping to see a little bit more of that before camp ends. If they don't, they'll be active in the portal, but they're not just going to take any old body. And we've probably seen that with the Indiana kid, Philip Bleedy, who has been offered by A&M and OU and LSU and a number of other schools. Texas apparently is looking for something a little bit better than that. They feel like I was told they feel like they've got that. They don't know that they've got beyond that, and beyond that's what they're looking for.
All kinds of good information coming in from Daddy Sorrell today, Catch. Get there early before the game. They have an autograph tent. So for Taylor and those wondering about it, Daddy Sorrell says it may be before the game. So double check it, but we'll take that. Also, this Catch, I like it. We need some hints. Daddy Sorrell says they already know who they're getting. Oh, come on. Do you have any hints for us? Come on, Daddy 88. Let us know.
Give us a wink if it's a player from Michigan.
I was going to say, send us a picture of Jim Harbaugh if it's a yeah.
Just type out the word wink. Wink, wink.
There you go. Wink. There it is. That's good. I like that. Let's get that done. Thank you to Daddy Sorrell and everybody else that's checking in on the Specs chat today, talking Texas spring football, and definitely check out the War Room at orangebloods.com from last night. A lot of great little news and notes and nuggets and pieces of information in there. Speaking of information, Catch, let's give them a little more about one of our great partners, My Perfect Franchise, and everything that Andy can do for them.
Well, look, maybe you want to start a business and sell those autographs that you pick up at the spring game. I'm just kidding. Maybe you want to start a business and you're just looking around and you're not quite sure what the first steps need to be. I believe that's a wink, wink on the porch from Sorrell. We'll get to that in just a second. Hello. But Andy would like to let you know, just reach out, text him 404-973-9901. You can call him, email him, Andy@myperfectfranchise.net. You want to get started You wonder what the right steps are. Oh, I don't want to make a mistake and have this and Uncle Sam mad at me that. That's what Andy's there for. He's there to act as a guide, that can help you make sure that you take the correct steps. He's not there to be your boss. He's there to help you get to the point where you get to be everybody's boss. Reach out to Andy today. The weekend is no problem. Text him, email him, call him, let him be your help today.
There you have it. All right, let's check back in with the chat. I do like that. Let's just make sure we get the official. There it is. All right.
There it is. It's official. There will be a Michigan defensive tackle that transfers to Texas based on the wink from on the porch.
Shirkland says, we got the wink. Coordinate the parade plan with the city. That's funny. All right, good stuff in the Specs chat already. Catch, in addition to, or maybe it's not even leaving the receiver discussion, but we talked about Golden and we talked a little Cook and all that. Anything else that's jumping out for you from War Room stuff last night that we really need to get into today?
Well, I think, there's a lot of stuff that we can get into from the War Room that's recruiting related tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't think you can say enough about the amount of talent that's coming in. Speaking of Barry and Baron Sorrell, Baron's been getting a lot of love for the involvement that he's taken from a leadership standpoint. That's a good thing. That this is a team that lost a lot on the leadership standpoint from a year ago. That he's emerged as a guy that is doing these exact things. I think that's a positive. I had somebody single out DJ Campbell to me and say DJ Campbell's getting better from a year ago. He was still trying to prove that he was kind of a player at this level. Now he's at a level where he's trying to prove he's even better than that and now ready to go to that next, maybe making money on Sunday level. So mostly good news on the Texas football front from what we were able to ascertain from sources over the course of the week.
That's good stuff. And there's a lot of, like you mentioned, all that talent coming in. I was going to try to figure out a way to ask this recruiting question. Let me see if I can do it properly. I'm assuming if I said to you, who's the one guy out of this group coming in that if he committed this weekend, it would be the biggest bombshell. I'm assuming you would tell me Decorian Moore. That if Decorian Moore decommits from LSU and commits to Texas over the weekend or right after the weekend, you'd tell me that might be the biggest bombshell. Is that fair?
Yeah, but there are a couple of other guys that I think would qualify.
Okay. If you take Decorian Moore kind of off to the side, because he is a commit, although a soft commit now, thanks to the uncle who let us know that. Give me another name or two where you tell a Texas fan, boy, if you could have a crazy April commit coming off of this weekend, the energy would be big time.
I'll give you like 2 or 3, okay?
Okay.
And one of them is one that we've talked about a lot, but Jordan Davison out of Modern Day High School.
Running back. The
running back. There's a sense that Ohio State is the leader. There's also a sense that Michigan's in there, and there have been a lot of people who've been trying to get their hands involved into that recruitment. If you could get a commitment from Davison, I think that would register nationally as a wow moment. I don't think anybody dismisses Texas's chances because at one point they did look like the leader, but now there's definitely a sense that Ohio State has surged into the lead. If on Monday we were talking about that, okay, that would be significant. I think there's a kid out of Jacksonville named Jamie French with 2 Fs.
I like the FF. The FF on the French is good.
NCH.
Yeah.
Occasionally, at one point, committed to Alabama. Ohio State's thought to be one of the teams heavily in the mix there. Texas, even though he's visiting this weekend and is expected to visit for an official visit before the summer is over. Even though Texas is in it, most national people don't talk like Texas is in it. So I think that is one that would move the needle. There's one more wide receiver I'll mention. Look, Khalil Lockett is such a big-time player. He's a borderline 5-star guy. Florida State, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, LSU, Florida State. He's going to take his official visits. I'm not expecting any news to occur there. But it's certainly one to keep an eye on. Lamont Rogers, because he's a big offensive lineman, because there's OU and a number of other schools that have become front runners with there as well.
That's the Mesquite kid, right?
He's from Mesquite Horn.
Right.
I think, he was scheduled to visit last week, but now he's coming in this week. Just something to keep an eye on. But yet there's one guy that's not among the normal names that if he committed this weekend, it would shake the recruiting landscape, the ground with which the landscape sits on significantly. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Jonah Williams.
Yeah.
Galveston Ball. He's yet another guy, 5 stars. I feel like you and I have had a million Jonah Williams conversations. Almost all of those conversations as it relates to Texas have centered on got to get him on campus. That he's visited OU and he's visited A&M and he's looked at Oregon, and there's a number of schools that he's looked at, and boy, he never ceases to leave Texas in the equation. But there's always a bit of a shrug of the shoulders that he's got to visit Texas. There's got to be a little bit more there. I am not making any predictions. You're asking me if they could get somebody from the weekend that would shake the ground. I think it would be this one. You get him on campus, you get an official visit, and if you could hear him come out of the visit saying, Texas is right there with all of them, that I had a great time, I'm definitely coming in for an official visit, and they're right there in the mix with everybody else that I'm looking at, now you got a chance.
Okay.
If he comes out of this weekend and he's like, we'll see, I'm not really sure about an official visit. Yeah, I'm interested, but I'm interested in a lot of schools. Sometimes it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. Listen closely to the comments that Jonah Williams makes. Does it sound like he's over the moon over what he sees this weekend, or is he giving them a little bit of the courtesy clap? Had a good time. I'm not quite sure if they're going to get an official. Man, if he doesn't know Saturday, 5:00, that Texas is definitely getting a follow-up and an official visit, then Texas has no shot.
Okay. So listen.
If he comes out of it and he's like, I had a great time, I love it when I come down here, they really got something cooking, and I don't exactly know when I'm going to do it, but I'm definitely taking an official visit. Absolutely no way will I not. That's when you know that Texas has an old school like Mike Tyson's punchers. Remember late in Mike Tyson's career, the Lennox Lewis era of the Tyson experience, where he wasn't the Mike Tyson of old anymore, but you always believed, well, if Mike just catches him,
right,
anything could happen.
Yeah.
I think if he comes out saying there's an official visit that's definitely going to happen, that puts Texas in the puncher's chance, at a minimum chance, of getting that kid. There's still a lot of work to do. Nobody, I think, would comfortably say that Texas is the leader there yet. That's way premature. But these are the weekends that those moments were made for. That if they've been kind of making some ground up behind the scenes, he's connected with the coaches, they just have to land a haymaker. That's what these moments were made for. I remind everybody he visited Texas 3 times last year. It's been a while since he's been on campus, but this isn't even like first time on campus, got to wow him. They've had him on campus. You'd be talking about potentially his 4th and 5th and maybe even like a 6th visit moving forward from here, depending on would he go to a pool party, some other type of event before the summer is over. So, I think that they've got to do a good job there, but the pieces are in place to do so.
Got to hook him. Got to get it done. Speaking of hooks, we got a good chat. Somebody says, hook 'em from Ketchum, Idaho. Dope.
I've never been to Ketchum, Idaho.
I have not either. Dope. Thanks for checking in. We need to get a big billboard put up right at the city limits of you going like this. That'd be great.
I'd like to see them put together a billboard for me.
Yeah.
That says Jeff Ketchum is welcome in Ketchum, Idaho.
All Ketchums are welcome. And then you're just like right there.
Should be like the mayor of Ketchum, Idaho. I don't want the work. Like an honorary mayor.
That would be perfect. Also got a good chat from Corleone here. Any chances at all we get some blue chip defensive linemen?
Sure.
They all want those defensive linemen, Catch.
For
They're
good
hard to
reason.
find.
They want those defensive linemen, but easier said than done. When you look at this weekend, who met DJ Sanders, the kid from Belleville, visited A&M last weekend.
He's impressive.
He's in Austin on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's also going to visit Baylor and Michigan. The thought is that A&M is a strong contender there. If you're Texas, this is a weekend when you got to leave a dent. You really have to have him thinking about Texas. Beyond that, I don't think there's anybody else that shakes the rim. There's no rim shakers. There's some good players. Xavier Ukpono from Denton Geyer also visited A&M last weekend. Talk about maybe setting up an official visit, but it's felt like A&M is the leader there, and I've wondered if he's at the level of guy that Texas wants to be bringing in, but it's not the biggest defensive line weekend of all time.
Yeah, here's a great question from Vivek. Who do you put on Jonah Williams? We need that closer. I guess Banks? Sometimes we've been talking about the leadership thing and vocal leadership and stuff in terms of the team moving forward, but you also might need it on a big recruiting weekend, Catch. Who would you dial up for the Jonah Williams conversation?
Well, there's a part of me that thinks Michael Taff is good enough for Arch. He's good enough for Jonah.
Just it worked once, right? Send him in.
Remember Bo Trahan back in the day? Like that was who he was. He was the unofficial mayor, and didn't matter who the recruit was, what type of personality existed there. Jalen Gilbo stands out in my mind. I can remember when his recruitment was taking place, it felt like he was cousins with everybody. So just because I remember him being cousins with everybody, that maybe you do that.
Somebody else says, Cotton says Anthony Hill.
I mean, it comes down to who's your Mr. Charisma guy.
Right. Who cuts the promo?
Some guys are better at cutting the promo than other guys are. So when they bring you into college, they want you to be a badass football player first and foremost. Being able to cut a promo, being able to be a guy that can host a recruit, that's a skill in upon itself. There's a part of me that, a lot of times you think about it by position, but a lot of times these coaches will think about it merely, who do we think will connect? Is there a family connection at all with any of these guys? With Jonah Williams, just something to keep in mind. Somebody who's from that Golden Triangle area, if you will, because I don't want to make it so easy as to say, well, everybody in the Golden Triangle knows everybody. That's not true, but these dudes all know each other when they're from that neck of the woods. Just something to think about. And keep in mind, these aren't official visits. These are unofficial visits. So in reality, what you end up with are the uncommitted kids who are visiting, hang out with each other more than anything else. So a lot of times who comes in on a specific official visit weekend is by design. And I think that there will have been some serious planning with regards to, you want DeCorian Moore here and Jonah Williams here. You want them to see each other on the visit and then maybe think to themselves, hey, it'd be cool to play together. How does that happen? Right. Where are the schools where that could happen kind of exist? And, they want to really plant the seed that Texas would be the place that could best occur. Now, LSU will tell you, look, we already got a commitment from DeCorian Moore. Maybe it needs to be LSU. Texas will, I think, have a lot of confidence. And it takes some guts to put those kids in on the same weekend, knowing that, in a week or two, those kids could be at LSU together, and maybe all you did was play matchmaker together. But I've never gotten the sense that Sarkisian and this staff are worried about that. I always get the sense that they want these guys, they want the seed to be planted, come to Texas to play together. This is the spot to make that happen.
Vivek throws in, both player and also coach you'd put on Jonah as a closer, Jeff Banks, maybe Barron. In terms of the coaches, is this a weekend where you can do specific things there, or do they try to keep that a little more general and then, like you said, reset for an official visit?
I think you'll probably see a lot of Blake Gideon on the Jonah Williams front. Blake Gideon's kind of an underrated recruiter. I think Texas fans just can't ever get it out of their minds that he dropped that ball against Texas Tech. And so, he could have won a national recruiting award for his recruiting chops, and people still wouldn't immediately go to him. This feels like a weekend where your position coaches are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. You want to get some Steve Sarkisian face-to-face time. But there is a practice going on. And then there's also the recruiting event as well. So the coaches are juggling a lot of things. I would imagine, shocker, but the position coaches will be the ones most heavily involved. And yeah, Jeff Banks, him too. He's a guy that always seems to have his hands in every single recruitment. You can't hurt yourself by having that guy involved in any of the recruitments. Anywhere Banks can be of use, you want him to be of use.
Thanks to everybody for jumping in the Specs chat. We're going to grab a couple more before we are done. We're going to get you some buy or sell real quick. I'm going to try to make myself and all of you hungry with a mention of Hays City Store. That's right. I'm going to keep this real simple for you. Order the home run dip to start. Then just get a pork chop in the middle if you like pork chops, grilled, blackened, or chicken fried. I've had 2 of the 3. I'm going after chicken fried the next time. And when it comes to dessert, say either key lime pie, if that's your thing, or say Barry's Heaven, and just trust me. Plus, have a great drink, and you'll have one of the best meals of your life out at Hays City Store. They are out there in Driftwood. They're between Kyle and Wimberley. We've gone out there and hit Hays City and then drive on into Wimberley and walk around downtown, the cool little city of Wimberley. Maybe you do that, but trust me, wherever you're coming from, the trip is worth it just to hit Hays City Store. We'll drive an hour to get there just to do that. Come back, and it's fantastic. It's just one of the best meals you're ever going to have. You're going to get treated well. That's your QR code. Get on out there and see them. Check out the happy hours. Check out the prices. Check out all the great drinks. They are just doing it at another level. Go find out what we've been talking about with Hays City Store. All right, Catch, we are headed towards a little buy or sell. I'm double checking the chat here. Make sure we're not missing any super chats or anything. Catch, I wanted to get you to talk about this real quick. Harish is helping me out. What's the latest with Anthony Williams? So for those that may have missed it, the Texas recruiting class in 25 is down to 4. because Deuce Williams, linebacker out of Shadow Creek, decommits. Your thoughts on that? What do you tell Texas fans there?
It needed to happen. I didn't understand the commitment when it happened. I don't want to be rude to Anthony Deuce Williams. I just don't know that he's quite on the level of a recruit that you would take this early in the process. And I think it's best for him to move on and find a school that eventually will be a better fit for him. My fear would have been this could have happened later in the process, and he would have found himself in trouble. But he's a good player. He's like a high 3-star, low 4-star type. He's in that cluster of guys. I didn't think he was of the ilk of linebacker prospect that the Longhorns needed going into the SEC. And this, I think, was eventually going to happen. I think this is the risk sometimes of when guys commit early. It could be that the coaches weren't quite ready for it or weren't quite ready to plan for, or whatever the case may be. But in the end, I think this was a cordial goodbye on both sides, and I think they both understand it.
All right, Vivek sent us a chat, a little bit next level here, but I'm sure you know the reference. Agreed, Catch. Just hope it doesn't hurt us with his teammate, though.
I mean, it had to be done.
Okay.
And what's meant to happen eventually probably should get done today and not tomorrow. Hurts with all teammates at that point. Yeah. If it gets later in the process. So, it's not an ideal situation that you would want to have occur. By the way, I saw someone say, Traces of Texas says, Galveston is not the Golden Triangle, Catch. Okay, technically, because the Golden Triangle is like Orange, Port Arthur, and Beaumont, but Galveston's like a play cousin of the Golden Triangle. It's a play cousin is the way I look at it. Because, so there you go. In the future, don't argue with me, Traces of Texas. Just say, Catch means it's a play cousin. And then you'll know where I'm at.
Yeah. That's how that works. Thanks to everybody who jumped in the Specs chat today. Up over 400 folks in there right now. Catch, we got anything before buy or sell, or are you ready to go?
No, let's hop into buy or sell.
All right. First or second today?
I'll let you go first today.
All righty. Let's hit the numbers. Buy or sell number one, Catch. Got to pump the brakes on Jonte Cook catching 75 balls.
Maybe a baby buy.
Okay. That's the number.
I don't feel like that's crazy talk.
Okay.
But maybe until we see a little bit more, I'll go baby buy there.
Okay. To be fair to Worthy and Cook, Worthy went from 60 to 75, and now some folks think Cook can go from 8 to 75. That'll be a hell of a jump. All right, Catch. Buy or sell number two, Matthew Golden, 38 catches last year at Houston. This year, he'll hit 40 plus.
I'm going to sell that too.
Okay.
I need to see a little bit more before I'm absolutely buying him at 40 plus.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk transcendence. Buy or sell number three. You think fans that don't watch the WNBA will start because of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese?
Sell. I think the people that don't watch the WNBA at all are always going to have a hard time watching the WNBA. The caveat to that is I really think there are a lot of young women that might start watching the WNBA because of the presence of someone like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I watch a little bit of WNBA, so I probably would continue to watch a little bit of the WNBA. I'll be interested, but I don't know how much I'll get sucked into watching with regularity what's happening on that front. Yeah, I think it comes with a caveat. Like, I do think there will be some, but I think the larger, more general number will be a no.
Gotcha. Interesting. Speaking of numbers, by the way, if you want to go see a men's Final Four game, 550. You want to see the women, 950 are the numbers right now in each of those spots. Arizona and Phoenix and Cleveland, I think, are our two cities for this one. All right, Catch. Let's go to Philly for this one. Buy or sell number 4, WrestleMania 40 predictions. Winners include Seth, Bailey, Becky, and Cody.
I'm going to have to sell because I don't even know who they're all facing.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
fair enough.
You know, I'm watching, but I don't even know the matches. What I was hoping for at some point in today's show, and maybe this just has to happen once we're done, I needed a little WrestleMania primer for you. Like, what is it that I'm even looking for on Saturday if I watch any?
Okay.
What could possibly happen on Saturday that I need to watch it, whereas I feel like I'm trained to watch on Sunday?
I will definitely get you that before we are done. And before this is done, how about buy or sell number 5, Catch? You are a fan of Curb. You have enjoyed the final season so far, and you can't wait for Sunday's finale.
I'm going to have to sell that. Of course, I'm a fan of Curb, but I can't say that I watched the first episode from this season, and I haven't kept up with it since. It's just I've been busy. My Sunday nights have been filled with different things. I will eventually catch up and watch the entire season, but that means I won't be watching the finale on Sunday. Although I could, but it feels like I'd be doing it ass backwards to see the beginning episode, watch the finale, and then watch the middle part. I can't think that I've ever done that with any show that I've ever watched. So I can't imagine that I'll start now.
Yeah, last Curb Your Enthusiasm episode will be on Sunday night. All right, Catch, what do you got?
Nothing that will show up on your screen. I'm just making this up as I go.
All right.
Buy or sell number 1. You'd rather go to this Saturday's practice where they'll be doing a little bit of everything, scrimmaging in front of all of the recruits. You'd rather go to Saturday's practice than the spring game in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, buy. Absolutely. Yeah, no, if I could fly on the wall to practice like that and see how it all works in terms of the big recruits coming in and just kind of get to see it there. Yeah, I think there'd be a little more realism in it than what's put together on the 20th. Absolutely.
Buy or sell. You expect that you'll watch at least 5 hours of college women's basketball this weekend.
Ooh, 5 hours this weekend. I think that's a buy. I'm definitely interested in – I'm going to peek in on the South Carolina game to see what they're doing tonight. The household, I think, is going to be ready for Caitlin and Paige. I definitely want to see that. That's a good 2.5 to 3, and then I'll be checking out some of the finals. So, yeah, I think 5 hours will happen.
This next question was kind of inspired by the idea that Travis Scott was at Texas practice yesterday. I was thinking about your daughter in non-creepy ways.
Okay.
But I wondered, buy or sell, your daughter dislikes someone on the music scene, the current music scene, to such a degree that it has transferred over to you and you irrationally dislike somebody in modern music because your daughter has trained you to.
Interesting. No, I think that's a sell. I think I've transferred maybe 1 or 2 to her, but I don't think it's gone the other way. No, I mean, any kind of dislikes that she's tried to put on to me have to do with, like, you know, Taylor Swift and former boyfriends and things like that. But I can't think of an artist right now that she's like not into to that level. Can't think of one.
Buy or sell number 4, Caitlin Clark drops 35 plus tonight in the national semifinal against Connecticut, and Paige Buchers drops 25 plus.
All right, so 35 plus for Caitlin, and you said Paige 25 plus?
Yes, but ultimately the difference, there'll be like a 10-point scoring difference between the two.
Right. Man, I like the sound of that. I definitely like the sound of that. And that's about at their averages. It's definitely a good buy or sell. I will I'll buy that, because if they go over, we're not talking about necessarily an exact thing, but I'll get it feels like the right neighborhood. I'll buy it. I hope so.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. I was looking at, I think it was an ESPN article today that was talking about draft fits.
Mm-hmm.
They had Adonai Mitchell going to Buffalo to replace Stephon Diggs. And they had Jonathan Brooks set up to go to the Cowboys in the second round.
Okay.
Buy or sell. That makes so much sense. There's no way it'll go down that way.
Oh, buy. Yeah, absolute buy, especially with those two teams involved, because both of them have a little tendency to get weird. The Bills can kind of be Cowboy Circus light at times. So I'll buy that idea, but I do like both of those fits. Mitchell, I really like the idea of him in Buffalo. I think that makes all the sense in the world. And Jonathan Brooks, I think, could work in a lot of different situations. The Cowboys is definitely one of them. I hope they put a running back room together if they actually are going to do that. But, why would I trust them to do that? So that's why it's a buy. I do buy that there's no way that'll happen.
By the way, shout out to the writers over at the Austin American Statesman. They're officially on strike today.
Whoa. Okay.
Did you not know that?
I did not know that.
They're on strike. They're trying to get, better salary, better benefits, better commitment to the craft, all of those things. So shout out to our peeps, Kirk Bowles, everybody at the Statesman. We're behind you. We're not on strike, but we're behind you.
Absolutely. Kirk Bowles covered the first strike ever. Did you know that? I don't know. I just thought I'd beat the chatters to it before we had the joke. All right.
What was the first strike?
I have no idea. I don't even
see if I can look that up.
I don't know what it was, but we learned that the phrase the clap went back to medieval times. So were they striking back then? I have no idea.
Okay, you ready?
All right.
The first important cultural value in Egypt. No, hold on. What is that? It's saying that it goes back. The first historically certain account of strike action was toward the end of the 20th dynasty under Pharaoh Ramses III in ancient Egypt on November 14th in 1152 BC. So it is possible that Kirk would have been there for that.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. All the way back to BC. That's beautiful. All right. So before we wrap up, Catch, you ready for your WrestleMania primer?
Give it to me real quick.
Based on who you are, I think this is really all you need to know. Saturday night's main event. First off, you'll like that phrase. Saturday night's main event is the tag team match with The Rock. Okay? So The Rock and Roman against Seth and Cody is Saturday night. And if The Rock and Roman win, there's a stipulation. If they win, then it's no rules on Sunday night in that last match. But if Cody and Seth win, then the last match has to be one-on-one on Sunday. So you got a little bit of that going on in terms of, the stuff that's set up. So for you, I'd say just worry about the main event on Saturday and then do what your gut says. Tune in on Sunday. No one in entertainment does a better job of rehashing what they've done and getting you a recap. So you're going to get the most badass recap of Saturday that you could imagine. Just watch on Sunday, but if you need to peek on Saturday, just peek at the end when The Rock shows up.
Perfect.
That's all you need. Yeah, that's all you need to do. All right. So before we get out of here, Catch, I heard some sports stats I want to throw at you real quick for the weekend. Little basketball, little football. So here we go. UConn on the men's side. They're taking on Bama, right, in the Final Four. This is the 12th time that the defending champ is facing a team making their Final Four debut. So your first ever Final Four against the defending champ. The defending champs are 11-0 in the previous games. Just to let everybody know where that one may go. Also, I thought you might like this one, Catch. Caitlin Clark. She averages 32 points a game this year. That leads the country in women's basketball By the way, nobody else has 30. So let's just kind of, let that simmer. She's got 32 points per game. Catch, the leader in scoring in women's basketball has never made the championship game.
Ooh.
Think about that for a second. Think about all the greats. Think about the Candaces and the Dianas and the Leslies and everybody. If you lead the country in scoring in Division I, you do not go to the championship game. Caitlin Clark's going to try to change that tonight. And the other one, Catch, it's going to blow your mind and it'll take you back. Remember back in the day when we talked to that man, Bill Barnwell? Remember?
Of course.
Yeah, we were we like to think we helped to build a couple guys. One is Daniel Jeremiah, but also Bill Barnwell. I was listening to Bill talk to Scott Van Pelt about quarterbacks and how you get them and how you draft and all that stuff. This stat blew me away. The only offensive coordinator in all of the NFL that was with their team before 2022 is Kyle Shanahan. That's it. Now, I didn't double check it, but I'm going to trust Bill Barnwell and Scott Van Pelt that it's real. If that's real, imagine what I just said. The amount of turnover in the NFL in that short time is stupid, if that's right.
When they said the NFL stands for not for long,
wow.
It didn't just mean playing.
That's amazing. Only OC that was there before 2022. All right, there you go. All right, I like this one. Let's just throw this out real quick. Shout out to Kirk Bowles. Interviewed Lou Holtz and Lee Corso while they were in high school. Mark, that is so true. I mean, that is absolutely true. I think that's how he made his name. Catch anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm finally feeling better as we do our last week of the last show of the week, which is par for the course, I suppose. I will remind everybody, though, any breaking news from this weekend, we will have content here on Orange Bloods Live. Even if it's just me, I'm sure I can find a partner in crime to get through a breaking news edition. But we'll keep an eye on what's happening on the recruiting side. So get those notifications, because there's no telling on Saturday and Sunday what we might have up our sleeves.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for checking out the shows. Thanks for checking out those video shorts. Thanks to our graphics and video team and everybody putting the stuff out on social media. We do appreciate everybody. And thanks to everybody who jumped in the Specs chat. We're up over 400 folks as we get ready to close the door. Have a good weekend. Catch, you have a good weekend. You've done it right, though. Always better to be sick at work and then well for the weekend than the opposite, because nothing sucks worse than being sick on a weekend. So I'm glad you're well for the weekend. Also, shout out to everybody at Anwar's house. They had a little craziness there today. Everybody's good, but a little craziness to start their weekend. We hope everybody is
Hit
better.
That thumbs up button
very soon. Hit the button. Hit that thumbs up. Think of me when you do it. Just as many thumbs up as you can. Like it, and like it. Everybody have a great weekend. Until Monday at noon, we are house.